Today, we will be discussing pop culture's influence on eating disorders. We will begin by discussing the definitions of eating disorders. We will then explain how disordered eating differs from a clinical diagnosis, how pop culture influences these patterns, and who is affected by disordered eating patterns. Then, we will go on by explaining the potential health consequences that may occur as a result. We will conclude by sharing a few possible solutions to minimize the effects that pop culture has on the problem of eating disorders and disordered eating patterns. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, an eating disorder is a serious and often fatal illness that is associated with severe disturbances in people's eating behaviors and related thoughts and emotions. A preoccupation with food, body weight, and shape may also signal an eating disorder. As of 2022, there are 8 eating disorders formally recognized by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which is abbreviated as DSM-5-TR. According to the National Eating Disorders Association, abbreviated as NEDA, anorexia nervosa is characterized by weight loss or lack of appropriate weight gain in growing children, difficulties maintaining an appropriate body weight for height, age, and stature, and distorted body image. Bulimia nervosa is characterized by a cycle of binging and compensatory behaviors, such as self-induced vomiting designed to undo or compensate for the effects of binge eating. Binge eating disorder is characterized by chronic compulsive overeating. Similar to the behaviors associated with bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder means consuming large quantities of food in a short period and feeling like you can't stop. Individuals with avoidant restrictive food intake disorder limit the volume and/or variety of foods they consume. And unlike the other eating disorders, food avoidance or restriction is not related to fears of fatness or distress about body shape, size, or weight. Other specified feeding or eating disorders is considered to be a catch-all classification. Despite this, it is still a serious, life-threatening, but treatable eating disorder. Recent research has found that OSFED is the most common eating disorder, with approximately 3.8% of women and 1.6% of men being diagnosed with the disorder at some point in their lives. Other notable eating disorders include unspecified feeding or eating disorder, which causes clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of life, but does not meet the full criteria for any of the disorders listed in the DSM-5. Rumination disorder involves the regular regurgitation of food that occurs for at least 1 month. Regurgitated food may be re-chewed, re-swallowed, or spit out. Pica is an eating disorder that involves eating items that are not typically thought of as food and that do not contain significant nutritional value, such as hair, dirt, and paint chips. Orthorexia is an obsession with proper or healthful eating, but it is not yet formally recognized as an eating disorder. According to the National Eating Disorders Collaboration, disordered eating sits on a spectrum between normal eating and an eating disorder and may include symptoms and behaviors of eating disorders, but at a lesser frequency or lower level of severity. The most significant difference between eating disorders and disordered eating is whether or not an individual's symptoms align with the DSM-5-TR criteria. Disordered eating may include restrictive eating, compulsive eating, or irregular or inflexible eating patterns. Dieting is one of the most common forms of disordered eating. Diet culture in the media has made a major impact on disordered eating behaviors. Diet culture became significant through the publication of various magazines and is today further exemplified through social media sites such as TikTok and Twitter. The following chart demonstrates a range of eating behaviors as they relate to eating disorders, disordered eating, and intuitive eating, which would be considered the most healthful choice. The role of pop culture on the influence of eating disorders and disordered eating behaviors. Pop culture has influenced eating disorders as early as the 1920s with the flapper diet, all the way to the 2000s with the baby food diet. In the 50s, with the popularity of Marilyn Monroe, many people were influenced by her hourglass body shape. In the 90s, the low carb diet became mainstream, influencing many to cut out this entire food group. This graph shows the gradual rise in eating disorder prevalence from 1990 to 2017 according to age. As you can see, it saw a significant incline beginning in 2010, especially for 30 to 34-year-olds. This could be due to the major growth of social media presence during this time. Culturally, we are exposed to mass media every single day. With the rise of the internet and social media, no one is excluded from this influence. Pop culture especially tends to display slender body ideals, which contribute significantly to the occurrence of disordered eating behaviors. Social media usage has only grown in recent years. With more time spent on devices, people of all age are exposed to images that don't necessarily exemplify reality, leading to a distorted body image and possibly leading to an eating disorder. According to the Center for Countering Digital Hate, TikTok starts recommending content tied to eating disorders and self-harm to 13-year-olds within 30 minutes of joining the platform, sometimes in as little as 3 minutes. While TikTok can be an entertaining and often educational form of social media, it can be hard to control what exactly shows up on your timeline. Eugenia Cooney is a prime example of a TikTok influencer that displays alarming symptoms and characteristics of suffering from an eating disorder. It may or may not be purposeful, but her content has the possibility of reaching and thereby influencing unsuspecting children, teens, and adolescents towards disordered eating behaviors. Who is at risk of developing an eating disorder? The reality is that anyone is at risk of developing an eating disorder, regardless of age, race, or gender. 28.8 million Americans will suffer from an eating disorder at some point in their lifetime, and 13% of adolescents will develop an eating disorder by age 20. This graph contains the most recent available data, which represents eating disorder prevalence by age. According to this data, adults between the ages of 20 and 34 are at highest risk of developing an eating disorder. Why this information matters and the resulting health consequences. There are a variety of health consequences that may occur as a result of suffering from an eating disorder. Not only is the entire body affected, including the cardiovascular, gastrointestinal, neurological, and endocrine systems, but suffering from an eating disorder can lead to eventual mortality. In conclusion, there are a few strategies which may alleviate the effects that pop culture has on the development of eating disorders. This includes health communication campaigns, which have the ability to spread awareness on eating disorders. NED Awareness Week is one that is hosted yearly. Media advocacy is defined as the strategic use of mass media to advance public policy initiatives. This could include strategic policies to encourage healthful, intuitive eating. Media literacy training empowers young people with the skills to recognize the shaping effects of media. And entertainment education is the use of entertainment media with educational objectives and includes media such as movies, television shows, social media campaigns, documentaries, music, and games. If you or someone you know is suffering or may be suffering from an eating disorder or disordered eating patterns, the NEDA is a wonderful resource. Every year, they organize NEDA Awareness Week to raise awareness on eating disorders. Please visit their website for more information, and thank you so much for watching.